So I was speaking with one of our clients, and they mentioned that they want to measure specific competencies in line with the framework that they've developed. And I thought that was a really good idea. In fact, that's very much how we like to operate. Now, this is important because most of the big personality questionnaires out there are in line with a specific model of personality, something from the academic literature, which makes sense intuitively, but it does make it hard to marry that with a competency framework. Now, organizations often spend a great deal of time, energy, money, effort developing these frameworks. And it's always extremely sad when they complete this process and then they say, okay, and how are we going to measure these things for a selection? And then they say, oh, with an interview. Completely invalidating all of the work that they've done, because interviews don't measure any of those concepts. They are social skills tests. They will not measure those competencies, which means it was largely an exercise in futility. But behavioural assessments are the ideal tools for measuring those, because competencies are inherently behavioural. Every competency framework that I've seen, it is integrity, work ethic, strategic thinking. These are behavioural characteristics that you can measure very effectively with a personality questionnaire, some sort of behavioural assessment. However, marrying your specific framework with some sort of general model of personality will mean two things. One is you have to spend a great deal of time trying to combine the two, pick out the bits of information that you would like, make sense of it, align them. Different terminology makes things complicated, particularly for hiring managers who are unfamiliar potentially with both the competency framework and the assessment. But more than that, huge amounts of the report will be generic, and as a result, basically redundant, irrelevant to the competency framework, which means the candidate is spending a great deal of time completing questions that ultimately are going to have no value, that are not going to be looked at, or will be used in an unstructured way, in that some hiring managers will look at them, some won't. That's introducing a great deal of unreliability into the process. Instead, if there is scope to create a custom assessment around that framework, the one that the organization has developed, you avoid all of that redundancy. Everything in the report will be relevant, and the messaging can be super consistent. Narrative in the report can be specific to the organization and to the roles that you're looking at, making it impossible for hiring managers to mess it up. It also means they don't need a huge amount of training, because they will immediately recognize what is on the paper. They'll be able to align that with the organization, with the role, with the team, without a huge amount of thought. It really reduces the cognitive load on the hiring manager, makes the assessment substantially more interpretable.